So let's get started. How are you this morning, Craig?
I
Welcome
am.
to $1 Million Career, man.
I'm good. We're back. Happy Monday.
Yeah, man. So I'm going to get right to it here. I'm going to talk about quiet hiring today. Everybody's been talking about quiet quitting. That's when people essentially just pack it in, throw the towel in. They're just going to go in the office and do the minimum. We all know that. Now we have this thing called quiet firing. And this is what I call the coward strategy.
Yep.
The coward strategy is hiring authorities, employers don't really want to come to grips with an employee that's having trouble, that's having challenges, maybe even going through some personal stuff.
Yep.
They just start to marginalize this individual and sort of move him or her to the side in hopes that they're eventually going to quit. That to me is being a coward. Okay. So I'm not a big fan of quiet firing. I think what's even more important than quiet hiring, what's even more important than quiet quitting and quiet firing is what I call quiet hiring. So quiet hiring is what all the smart companies are doing. And I'm not going to say all of them, but very few are actually implementing this very clever strategy. And that's what I'm going to talk about today, quiet hiring.
I like quiet hiring.
Yeah.
It's proactive.
It's what you and I do all the time in a recruiting practice. And I want to sort of set the stage here for this because a lot of people may not know what it is, but it's really when a company identifies somebody internally that is doing something above and beyond the call of duty. They meet all the objectives. They're in direct alignment with their culture, their personality, and their strategy, and also to an extent external hiring practices. And what these companies have done is they very quietly form these talent or hiring committees of a few people, and they decide internally, okay, what are the 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 attributes or aspects of a person's background, of their qualifications that really resonates and are the critical success factors in our organization. So once they know, what these candidates' attributes are that are in direct alignment with their strategy, then they can very quietly and methodically identify these people and identify people who are internally, and then pour resources into them, provide them with coaching, provide them with instruction, different opportunities. Then they can use these people as transformative figures. And how this first came about was about 5 years ago. And a client of mine came to me and said, we want transformative employees. We want to take our company from 29 people to 60 people in 5 years, which is an extraordinary growth rate. And that's what we did. And as we talk about this a little bit more, I'll give you some examples, but I'm just curious, Craig, how do you think about quiet hiring? And have you seen this used either yourself or with some of your clients?
Yeah. Well, I mean, what you're talking about is like, hey, talent mapping. You got an organization that says we want to double. If we want to double over the next couple of years, what are the skills that we're going to need to bring in? What do these people need to look like? What are the emotional intelligence traits they need? What are the personal? So what they do is they draw it out on a map. They say, okay, we're talent mapping. And then we're skills mapping. Well, if we want to double in size, we need better sales, we need better manufacturing, we need better whatever. We're going to need more programmers for CNC machines, or customer service agents for insurance. So they fill out the, basically it's, you fill out a chart. You're like, all right, we're going to skills and talent map. Where do we lack in the organization? I see it all the time. Well, I wish I'd see it more.
Yeah.
Small companies, this is something that's really important. 60% of the U.S. economy is small businesses.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think small businesses have a very good idea, of a better idea of talent mapping than big companies.
Yeah. And if you take that one step further, I'm looking at like this particular client, the assumption is, and the research is borne out that, a top performer, generally speaking, is going to do 400% of the productivity of the average guy. it's basically the 80-20 rule.
Mhm.
So what these clients have done is they've taken their peak performers, their high performers, who they've quietly assessed behind closed doors in these
Mhm.
talent and hiring committees. It's a very confidential thing. But I've seen them promote people in the mid to lower ranks into positions of
Yeah.
leadership, management, new projects, creative and innovative work, complexity, and stuff that simply other employees can't do or are willing to do. So these people are getting that opportunity.
Yeah.
It's done in a very quiet, very methodical manner, sort of along the lines of the quiet quitting and the quiet firing, only it's quietly hiring, it's quietly promoting.
Yeah.
It's really enhancing and rewarding
Well,
highly valued employees.
well, that's what companies should be doing. What they should be doing is, identifying, you've got, look, multiple layers of organizations. And nothing rots quicker than a stagnant pond, right? So you can't
Yeah,
bring in high performers and then just leave them stagnant. So ultimately, you've got, people up at upper levels or at certain levels who are going to move up or they're going to move out for whatever reason. Some changes, turnover in an organization is actually good. You can identify the mid-level players and move them up into, as you should, so that you give them opportunity in your company. Everybody wants to go to a company where they have opportunity. Hey, if I come in, I knock it out of the park for you now, what's it going to look like in a couple of years? Well, if you come in and knock it out of the park for us now, the world is your oyster. And that's what companies should always be doing internally, is looking at who are the players at the manager level, maybe a level below the manager level, the senior manager, the director, who can, take on bigger things.
yeah,
And then you're looking at the skills side. You're going, all right, what are the skills? But then, it's pure laziness. I mean, how many calls a week do you get from your clients or people who aren't even your clients, but they know about you, who say, if you hear or see somebody that looks like this, we would love a phone call.
yeah,
I get it all the time.
yeah,
And those are people, I got one last week, if you see some people, I need to do something.
yeah,
We need to, okay, let's map out a strategy.
exactly.
But then you talk to the CEO. I mean, I could call 20 CEOs today and go, hey, and I could literally I literally am working, there's a couple companies out there, if they knew whose resumes I had in my hand, if they knew which of their employees whose resumes I had, they'd be hurt. They would be hurt if these people left.
Yeah.
And I could easily call up their, if I called up their competitors and said, hey, if I could get you Joe Smith out of this company, would you want to talk to him? Oh no, we just don't have a position, whatever. It's like the top sales guy out of your number one competitor, or the top sales girl. You're like, it's pure. Yeah. We don't know what to do. We don't know what to do.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I think taking that a step further. So a lot of people listening are probably thinking, so how do we actually do quiet hiring? So I'm going to use this example. So this company came to me about 5 years ago and said, we want to double in size. And I said, what are you looking for? They said, well, and they started talking about experience on resumes, 7 years of experience in this certification. I went over there and I met with them, and we ended up putting together a committee of 5 people. And after several different executive sessions, it was sort of like executive coaching. They came up with the elite 8 attributes that they had identified.
Yep.
Of highly successful people. And I asked them, I said, what is your purpose? And their purpose was very simply, we want to bring in transformative employees. Doesn't make a difference if they're high level or low level. We want employees that can transform this organization because we want to double in size in the next 5 years. So I went back on my notes. They came up with the elite 8 attributes. Here's what they are. Number 1, determination. Number 2, insight. Number 3, curiosity. They found that people that were very intellectually curious did very well. 4, a cultural fit. 5, competitive sports or similar intellectual competitiveness, like debate team. 6, interpersonal skills. 7, mental acuity. In other words, and this is an important distinction that we made. I remember going through this very discussion about mental acuity, assessment tests, and all this kind of stuff. For higher level positions that require creativity and innovation and analytics, particularly financial analytics, the intelligence score was actually very important. It was a predictor of success. And the last one, driven by purpose. They had to find people that wanted to work there, or that were existing, or that were currently working there, that were driven by purpose. They believed in the mission. And this company did have a very well articulated mission. So we started hiring people, not based upon experience per se, not based upon a skill or even a certification, but based on these attributes. And it was amazing. You know, the company has doubled. They've gone from 29 people to 62 people in 5 years. Now, I'm not saying every single one of these people meets every single one of these attributes, but it was amazing because then as a recruiter, I knew exactly what I was looking for. Exactly.
Well, that's the key to being a good executive recruiter, is knowing your client, knowing their culture, knowing who fits. I've had clients who are less of a company and more of a hockey team. You come in and you play smash mouth, all day long. If you don't fit in the culture, if you can't do that, don't go there.
Exactly.
I've
But,
never, that's
most companies never go through that exercise, though. You know what I mean?
that's, hey, look, who are we as a company? Who are we as a company? What is our culture as a company? What are we trying to accomplish as a company? Who fits into our mold? I mean, sports teams do that. My grandfather was a scout for the Chicago Cubs back in the 40s and 50s. I mean, interesting. I've got a little lifetime pass with his name on it to Wrigley Field. And that was his sole purpose, around the upper New York, northeastern corridor. He would go watch for talent all day long. And that's what he did. But that's what companies need to do. It's like, hey, who are we as a company? Who are we as a culture? What are we trying to accomplish?
Yeah.
And too many, I love it when I always ask the HR people, hey, and I always write their position descriptions for them. But I go, give me a rough position description as to what you're looking for, even if it's just, a bunch of bullet points. Inevitably, I put 8 to 10 years experience in. Come on, man. 8 to 10 years experience. That doesn't do anything.
Right.
Shift that to documented success, in certain areas, things like that. But what's interesting is I'm writing a blog today, A Tale of Two Conversations. First conversation last week was with a young fella. Met a CEO on a Zoom call. I sat in on the Zoom call. And he articulated his leadership skills very well. He articulated his operations skills like, wow. He articulated his knowledge of the business, how to grow sales, who customers are that these guys could go pursue in different verticals. He understood the challenges of various ERP systems, going so far as to highlighting 3 or 4 and going, well, this one's really good here, but it's not so good here. And this one's really good. And he goes, the key is figuring out. And he articulated a vision. And within 24 hours after that conversation, the CEO of the company called me up 3 times and said, is he coming? Is he coming? When can we get him here? Is he coming? Is he coming? Is he coming? Second conversation. Guy, my boss doesn't understand me. The VC company behind us is taking us down a rabbit hole. I don't have enough capital, or I don't have enough, commitment from these guys to go grow new customers. I don't. And I'm like, literally, it was like, I was sitting there listening to the conversation with my feet up on the desk and I fell asleep. I literally fell asleep. I'm like, yeah, how much is this guy going to whine to me? Well, nobody whined themselves to success.
Yeah, whining is not on the list of attributes. that these
Whining is
guys are
not on the
looking
list
for.
of attributes, but for companies, they can't sit there. They can't whine themselves into success. We don't have this. We don't have that. We don't, well, figure out what you need.
Yeah.
Get off your butt. Look forward.
Yeah.
Talent map, skills map, have these conversations, get a couple of good executive recruiters in there, articulate what you feel like you need as a company, what your culture is, and put a broad vision together and go, this is who we are. This is what we want to be. These are the people we want to attract, and go to the market and make yourself exciting.
Yeah, because we've talked about this in the past. The number one thing that people are looking for is not money anymore. They're looking for purpose. Company has to have a purpose. So my advice to companies is figure out what your purpose is.
Yeah.
Okay. And then form a committee.
Yeah.
Internal talent committee, put together a list of attributes or aspects of the successful candidate, successful employee. And that's how you build your team. But you've got to figure out like who you are first.
Yeah. Here's a good analogy. I can't think of any number one NFL draft picks over the last 20 years who said, gee, I hope the Lions pick me.
Exactly.
You think about it, pick me. Yeah. Detroit. Yay. No, they suck. It's where good careers go to die. But then you take a Tampa Bay or, Belichick back in the day, or some of these teams are, Kansas City. These teams are like, hey, we're going to go build some careers and make some careers happen. And those are, A, people hate B companies. A, people will not go to B companies unless they are there to turn them around.
Yeah.
So that's what, if you're a B company and you want to stay a B company, hire B people. People are going to quietly quit on you. People you're going to be okay with. Maybe you're just chugging along. But if you want to grow, you want to get aggressive, you got to go identify those A players, but really have a knowledge as to what they will look like.
Excellent.
And I think that's where HR teams fail miserably.
Yeah. How do people get a hold of you, Craig?
910-231-4037 is the phone number. Craig at northstaresg.com. And I'm all over LinkedIn, so just connect with me.
And by the way, Craig is the number one recruiter in aviation aerospace in the country, consistently $1 million producer. Craig's always good to have you on the show. We'll talk next week, man.
All right, man. Thanks, Rob. Good to
Okay.
have you. Good to talk to you again.